I don't care anymore. I'm not watching this rubbish. I hope the BBC will find a new audience to replace the one that's been watching for the last 50 years who pays for everything. My childhood is ruined. What was the BBC thinking? Do they want Doctor Who to end? William Hartnell's probably turning over in his grave right now. It's another show to be cooked by the SJW feminazis. This is absolutely ridiculous. Rest in peace, Doctor Who. Hope someone bombs the studio and guts Stephen Moffat.
You f***ing people.
As if I didn't have enough things to do, it turns out that even though we're living in 2017, the announcement of the actor who will be replacing Peter Capaldi as the lead on Doctor Who just had to be a thing. And the thing here translates to a jarring reminder that the Doctor Who fanbase, like most fanbases, is a horrible festering conglomerate of butthurt contrarian 12-year-olds. And if it sounds like I'm getting uncharacteristically angry and personal, it's because I truly thought we were past this. If you're watching this video, you probably don't need me to tell you that yes, the 13th Doctor is a woman. Hopefully I can hold on to just a smidgen of my faith in humanity by assuming that what I just said wasn't a big deal to most of you. Sadly, quite a few people never grew out of the He-Man Woman Haters Club and are genuinely decrying this news as the death of the show. Yes, the show that survived this and this is going to finally croak after well over 10 years back on the air, and at least 5 years already planned, because the main character no longer has a dongly thing between their legs. I don't want to ever have to talk about this stupid thing again, so let's lay everything I have to say about this subject out right here and now. 1. Stop being petty. This is directed at both sides of the conversation. The gender of a show's main character has literally zero impact on its quality. I don't care what your opinion of that quality is, there is no circumstance in which having a male or female or transgender or whatever character actually makes your show better or worse by sheer fact of their existence. By saying that Jodie Whittaker's time on the show is going to be any better or worse than her 12 predecessors without seeing her stories firsthand is the most juvenile schoolyard mentality. What, do you think she has cooties? Do you think if you continue to watch the show with a woman in the lead, you'll somehow be less manly or something? Why is your masculinity so fragile? And hey, all of you over there celebrating the casting of Whittaker solely because she validates your need to make people uncomfortable are just as bad. To paraphrase the hypocrite from his video on the subject, if you're a real fan who sees this as a positive change, your hope should be that everyone learns to accept it with open arms, not basing your joy over the announcement on how bad it will make others feel. If and when you watch Whittaker's era and decide it's either complete pants or the second coming inside those pants, the only thing you accomplish by jumping ship or proclaiming the show as dead is making yourself look like one of those kids from Milk Money who hardly understand what a female even is, to the point of treating them like some boogeyman from under your bed. Point 1.5, change is usually a good thing. The other side of this whole argument is that over the course of over 50 years we've had 12, no 13, no 14, no 15 different men play the part of this character, and as a result people might see the Doctor as a classically male figure in fiction. Ain't it funny how is usually the go-to argument for anyone looking to be exclusionary about this sort of thing? Yes, I know that Doctor Who, as much as it's touted itself as being about change, does rely pretty heavily on tradition. The TARDIS, the sonic screwdriver, the Daleks, the Cybermen, the theme song, hell, even the Doctor's fashion sense. All of these things are traditions of the show, and any deviation from them is usually met with a bristly reaction at best. Just look at the way we all treated the iPod Daleks, and I know the 12th Doctor's hoodie and shades combo was real off-putting for me at first. But conversely, how long have sections of us been begging for things like a season where neither Cybermen or Daleks show up at all so they don't feel overused? Or setting the sonic screwdriver aside so that it can't be a get-out-of-jail-free card so often? Now, I know these are all comparatively little things next to a person's gender, which, whether we like it or not, is a large part of everyone's personal identity, but the show has been priming you for the possibility of this change for years.
I might never make sense again. I might have two heads, or no head.
Let me go!
Short for mistress.
Back to normal, am I? The only time I've been a man, that last body.
Going back to an earlier point, the gender of the character you watch doesn't reflect your masculinity. You're not gonna magically turn into less of a man because you gave a female-led show a chance. And if you separate yourself from the idea that their gender is a defining aspect of the Doctor's character, like their intelligence, confidence, basic morality, and sense of adventure, there's really no reason this should be a change that you can't adjust to. That said, the entire reason this video exists is because I know some of you can't, so, moving on to point C, get over it, this probably won't last very long. Let's all be completely real with ourselves for a second. I'm sure Whittaker will be great in the role, and I'm confident in Chris Chibnall as showrunner, but And this is just a fact here, the very premise of casting a female doctor is a novelty. A novelty with tons and tons of in-universe setup and justification, but still a novelty. I know it's incredibly harsh to put that designate on what on paper is a representational move, but those looking for strong female representation never had to look far on this show, even back in the 60s. No, I'm convinced that the main reason to cast the Doctor specifically as a woman or a person of color is just so that the BBC can say that they did it once. If you're really someone who thinks this is a bad move on principle, I'm not sure why you're watching this show to begin with, but you can take solace in the idea that after the 2 or 3 years it'll probably take for Whittaker to leave, the show will probably never do this again. Not saying that's what should happen, but now that the people who have been clamoring for this for years and years and years are placated, you can bet the BBC will feel absolutely no pressure to do anything but white dudes again for the next couple of decades. So go ahead, go on over to your safe space, away from the evil infestation of femininity into your precious hyper-masculine show, and then come back in a few years when everything's inevitably designed to coddle you again as some kind of reparation. Point 5 or something. Chris, BBC, handle this right. I'm slightly less worried about this now that Moffat is leaving the show and Chibnall doesn't seem to have any of his weird gender politics, but the absolute worst thing the show can do for itself once Whittaker steps on is to put in a lot of glib, pandering lines about the fact that he is now a she. Don't do that. Don't draw attention to the difference, especially since there are a lot of people who are still on the fence. Willing to give Whittaker a chance, but equally willing to jump ship if you dedicate 5 lines an episode to, golly gee whiz, isn't it so great/weird that I'm a woman now? If you want to get serious and maybe do an episode about how the gender changes genuinely affected the Doctor as a person, whether or not she's okay with it, whether they're comfortable or not, and how they choose to cope, that could be potentially brilliant. Just don't make it some petty faux feminist thing that amounts to nothing more than rubbing the change in everyone's faces while not actually saying anything about the character. Also, let's not do the thing that we did with 12 and make sorting out who or what this Doctor is a whole series arc unto itself. It barely worked in Series 8, and that's not grounds that needs to be tread again. Having Doctor 13 spend most of their first series with a complete and identifiable persona that they're confident in would be the best possible option for both Whittaker as an actress and Chibnall as a writer. Basically what I'm saying is have a take on the character that isn't just the gender change and then be confident in that take. Don't disappear into origin territory again. I know it's tempting to almost think of this as a brand new show because of the big change, but don't do that. Whatever. I'm just tired. I just wish I didn't have to make this video. I wish that the stupid, pea-brained mentality that made it so an actress has to worry about scaring fans off just by being an actress didn't exist. But it does, and I can only hope that the more evolved people will come to the show and feel more welcomed by Series 11. I hope that Chibnall can give us a series that I like as much as his solo episodes and better than the lukewarm soup that was most of Series 10. I just reviewed that, by the way. And I hope that the show does well, and I hope that within my lifetime we can reach a point where we all unanimously look back at this negative reaction and laugh at it for the circus it is. I hope the people decrying Whittaker's casting as some kind of omen get to grow up, and I hope that I never have to make this sort of thing ever again.